thing. But what I remember specifically back then, and this is early, we're talking about 87, I had a cellular phone. Okay. This was like a box. It was about, yeah, it was like a box. It had an antenna and the phone you set on it. Now mind you, back then, even with like Sky Pages phones, you had to be a doctor to have a Sky Pager.
Exactly.
You know, a pager, period. Because the pager back then, early on, all it did was basically tell you to call back to a service, and the service would give you your message. You know, and then to have a phone back then, like my phone bills used to be $3,500 a month. Like,
wow!
Because
in the 80s,
there was no unlimited enough for, like, this is early on with technology, way earlier. The only people who ran around with cell phones were Wall Street guys.
Exactly, true.
You know, and elite people. Okay. You know, so I remember having this phone in the car. I remember, you know, being dressed a certain kind of way. And I remember, and I knew it was it, because when I came across the bridge, because the car was being customized in Queens, and when I like came across the Tri-Borough Bridge, and I hit Harlem, it's like you would think an alien was coming through. You've seen everybody, like everywhere I went.
Stop to look.
Like, and I knew that was it, because the other cars people had been accustomed to seeing it, and it still was a dope. You know, you still had dope joints. But this joint was so crazy, like, so I'm like, everywhere I looked, everybody I ran into was like, God damn, this, that, you know, so I ended up getting locked up twice in the car.
Wow.
In the car?
In the car, for the car.
Yeah.
Because the car stood out so much that I would get pulled over. And then when I got pulled over, and this is me being fast, the title and everything was in German.
Wow.
So you couldn't even make heads or tails of it, because all I had on it was a Tim tag on the back window.
Yeah.
Right.
And all the information and everything was like German. I didn't get it transferred. You know, you're a kid. You wild. You know, you feeling yourself.
Yeah.
And it's really stupid and ignorant, you can tell, right?
True.
So the first time I got locked up, I was up in the Bronx, because I'm from the Bronx.
Okay.
So I'm up in my old neighborhood up in the Soundview area, and I'm coming past the 43rd precinct coming down, you know, White Plains Road, coming around there, and I get pulled over. And the police ask me for, you know, this, that, whatever. I show it, and I'm arrogant, and I'm really like, when I think back on it, I'm like, yo, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah,
like, you know,
right.
I just didn't give a fuck. Like, I just felt, you got to paint the picture when you're 20 years old. You come from poverty. You wake up one day and you just got more money than you know what to do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you feel invincible. So that was like my feelings. And mind you, I'm 160 pounds soaking wet. You know what I mean? My money probably weighed more than I did in my pockets. So when I get pulled over, I'm talking crazy to them. I'm like, man, listen, give me the ticket. You know, this, that, whatever that looked like. And at some point, when they couldn't make heads or tails of it, they just locked me up.
Wow.
So I get locked up. I'm in the precinct. Anybody know from Soundview, on the 43rd precinct, I'm locked up in there. You know what I mean? I don't even know why. They don't even know why. You know what I'm saying? So I go through the central booking, the whole thing. I go to court. The judge is like, well, like almost like, well, why? What is he here for? So I get right out, mind you, because I had no reason to get locked up.
Right.
So when I get out, they end up impounding the car. Right. So now this is where the shit gets weird. Not even weird. It gets like, when I look back on it, I'm like, again, what am I thinking about? I paid cash for the car. Right. I put it in a girl's name who's on welfare. I'm telling you, these are real stories. Okay. Because at the time, it's like anybody who would do it, you put this car on my name. You know what I mean? And I might have been somebody, and actually it was my man's sister. You know what I mean? But at the time, like, she's on public housing, you know, the whole thing. So I have to go and get this car. And I'm going to get this car. So I go, I get her to notarize it, giving me permission to get it, this, that, and the third. I go to Whitestone, back to and I think they still impound cars over there. So I go to Whitestone and get my car. I go right in there. And anybody know anything about the Whitestone is run by the police. Right. So here I am, my 19, 20-year-old self, just walk right in there, you know, with this, that, and the third, and I got my car. You couldn't do nothing like that today. Right. It just seemed like law enforcement, society just was asleep. Right. Because the shit that we did just didn't make no sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how outlandish we were, it didn't make no sense. So I retrieved the car. I get back in the car, you know, I drive around a little bit more, and I'm just, everywhere I'm going, I'm just getting pulled over or I'm getting heat. So now I get paranoid about the car. Finally, at some point, it kicks in and like, yo, this is too much. Now it's too much. So I end up saying, you know what, I'm gonna get rid of this car. So I go down to Formula One to my guy and I say, listen, man, this car's too much. Like, you know what I mean? So I asked him, could they sell it for me? And he said, yeah, sure. You know, we sell it. So they took the car and they put it in a showcase. And we talking about a store that's like this, but it was bigger than this. But we talking on 11th Avenue, and they got like 2 or 3 cars that so it would be like a car like this, my car, and another car. So at that point, I would drive one of my other cars because I had BMs, you know, whatever. I had a bunch of cars. So part of what I would do, and this is like, and Dane can appreciate this. This is when we're in Harlem, we front, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm with whatever chick I'm with that night. You know, I drive downtown, and my shit is in a showcase, and I'm in a luxury car, saying that this is my car, and this is Midtown, on 57th Street, and I would just, you know, like, you know what I mean? Because I can't even drive it anymore, but I can take you and show you.
But it hurt though.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying?